Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping straight into cybersecurity for 2025. We've looked at, well, a lot of data to really pin down the 5 critical trends and threats shaping everything digital.
Yeah, and understanding these things, it's not just for the tech gurus anymore.
Right.
In this world where everything's connected, these are issues everyone really needs to get their head around.
Absolutely. I mean, think about this. Back in 2024, cybercrime cost the world, an estimated $9.2 trillion? And the forecast for 2028? It's expected to explode to nearly $13.8 trillion. That kind of growth it really drives home that every single clip, every connection we make is a potential doorway for cybercriminals.
It's a pretty stark reminder. Cybersecurity isn't just, protecting data. It's about safeguarding our lives, which are becoming more and more digital every day.
So what are the real game changers as we look at 2025? We've zeroed in on 5 key areas we really need to unpack for you. First up, AI and machine learning, how they're being used as both weapons and shields in this ongoing cyber war. Second, the big shift towards zero-trust architecture. Third, that looming disruption from quantum computing. Fourth, the persistent rise of ransomware-as-a-service. And finally, number 5, something that's always critical, but maybe sometimes overlooked, the human factor.
These are really the fault lines in the digital world right now. Understanding them is definitely the first step towards building better defenses, whether that's for you personally or for your organization.
Exactly. And our goal today isn't just to list these trends. We want to give you expert insights and, really importantly, actionable intelligence, things you can actually think about and start doing, pretty much right away to boost your security.
That's good.
So let's dive right into trend number 1, AI and machine learning in cyber warfare. It's complex, it's evolving fast.
No, definitely. It's a really fascinating space because, as we'll see, AI really amps things up for both the attackers and the defenders.
Okay, let's dig into that dual nature then. On the attack side, AI is enabling, a whole new level of sophistication.
Right.
Take phishing emails. We're not talking about those obvious generic spam messages anymore. AI can now craft these incredibly personalized emails. They can mimic someone's writing style almost perfectly, pulling information from all over the internet.
And that level of targeting, that really convincing impersonation AI makes possible, it just makes these attacks way more effective and, frankly, harder to spot with the old methods.
It's a genuine step change. And the potential damage, it's huge. You remember that incident in 2024 at the London financial firm that lost $25 million?
Oh yeah, that was big news.
That wasn't just some clever email. It actually involved a deepfake video call. It looked and sounded exactly like the CEO.
That one definitely sent ripples through the industry. It showed just how AI can be used to manipulate not just text, but visuals, audio, making social engineering attacks just terrifyingly believable.
Totally. But, like we said, there's another side to this coin. Defenders are harnessing AI too.
Right, the good guys are using it as well.
Machine learning algorithms can now sift through massive amounts of network activity, like in real time. They spot anomalies, subtle signs of an attack that a human analyst wading through all that data might just miss.
Yeah, machine learning's knack for spotting deviations from the norm, even if it's not a known attack pattern, that's a real game changer for catching threats early.
Exactly. I mean, companies like Darktrace, they've kind of built their whole thing around detecting those unknowns threats nobody's seen before. And in 2025, the trend is definitely clear. More and more organizations are bringing these AI-powered security tools on board.
The sheer speed and scale AI offers for processing security data. It gives defenders a huge advantage in finding and responding to threats quickly.
Now, to really get into the nitty-gritty of AI and cybersecurity, we're thrilled to have Dr. Maya Patel with us. She's a top cybersecurity researcher and an AI expert at Stanford University. Dr. Patel, welcome. Expert speaker is Dr. Patel.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here. Dr. Patel, as we head deeper into 2025, how are you seeing AI fundamentally changing the game for both cyber attacks and defenses? Expert speaker is Dr. Patel.
Well, as you've both touched on, AI is genuinely transformative in this area. For the defenders, for security teams, think of AI as this super smart, always on guard dog. Okay, expert speaker is Dr. Patel. It's constantly watching network traffic, user behavior, spotting things like, logins from weird locations or at odd times, and it flags suspicious stuff in real time. But on the flip side, hackers are adopting AI incredibly fast to automate their attacks, make them more effective. Think spear phishing, but on steroids. Right. Expert speaker is Dr. Patel. AI crafts these emails that are so tailored, so personal, and it can do it at scale. So it's not just more attacks, but attacks that are way more likely to actually work because they're so personalized. Expert speaker is Dr. Patel. Precisely. And one thing that's particularly worrying is a rise of AI-driven social engineering. We're talking deepfake audio, deepfake video, used to convincingly impersonate someone trusted inside a company. Maybe a senior exec asking for an urgent wire transfer. Expert speaker is Dr. Patel. Tricking employees into giving up sensitive info or performing actions that breach security. We mentioned that $25 million deepfake CEO case. Are there other examples that really show how this threat is growing? Expert speaker is Dr. Patel. Unfortunately, yes. Early in 2025, there was a case involving a hospital CFO in California. An employee got a phone call. Sounded exactly like the CFO. Wow, expert speaker, as Dr. Patel, instructing them to transfer $10 million to a fraudulent account. And tragically, they did it. What's really alarming now is how cheap and accessible these deepfake tools are becoming. You can find pretty sophisticated software on the dark web for maybe like $500? $500, that's terrifyingly low. Puts it in reach of so many more bad actors. Expert speaker, as Dr. Patel. Exactly. So what can organizations and even individuals actually do to defend against these AI-powered attacks? Expert speaker, as Dr. Patel. You really need a layered defense. For companies, comprehensive ongoing employee training is just non-negotiable, right? Expert speaker is Dr. Patel. Staff have to be trained to be skeptical of unexpected requests, to always verify identities through a secure known channel, like calling someone back on a number you know is legitimate, deploying AI tools that can actually analyze audio and video for signs of deep fakes. That's becoming critical too. And of course, multi-factor authentication, MFA, is still a cornerstone. Even if a deepfake fools someone, MFA can stop unauthorized system access. Those are definitely key. Looking ahead through 2025, is there anything on the AI front in cybersecurity that gives you maybe a bit of hope, an edge for the defenders? Expert speaker, as Dr. Patel.
Yes, actually. I'm quite optimistic about federated learning. It's a really interesting technique.
It lets multiple organizations train AI models together on threat data, but without ever having to directly share their own sensitive internal information. How does that work? Expert speaker, as Dr. Patel. Imagine different companies, agencies, all contributing insights about new threats they're seeing to build a better, smarter AI model collectively. But their own private data stays private. It's kind of like assembling a cybersecurity Avengers team. Everyone shares their unique knowledge to fight the bad guys, but nobody reveals their secret identity, so to speak. That's a great way to put it. A cybersecurity Avengers team. Dr. Patel, thank you so much for sharing your expertise. That was incredibly insightful. Expert speaker is Dr. Patel. My pleasure. Happy to contribute.
Federated learning, that's a really neat idea. It tackles that huge challenge. How do you share threat intelligence effectively without giving away sensitive data? Could be a real boost for collective defense.
Absolutely. Okay, listeners, we've just scratched the surface on AI and cyber warfare. Now let's shift gears. We're moving to a foundational security idea that's becoming just essential in 2025. Zero trust architecture.
Yeah, zero trust. It's a total paradigm shift in how we think about security. It basically throws out the old idea of having implicit trust just because something or someone is inside your network boundary.
Okay, let's break down zero trust architecture, or ZTA. The core idea. Pretty simple, really. Trust no one, verify everyone.
Right.
It's a huge departure from that traditional, medieval castle security model, where once you got past the outer walls, you were mostly considered safe, trustworthy.
That whole castle and moat thing worked, sort of, when networks had clear edges, but now, with cloud computing, remote work, all these connected devices, those old boundaries have basically dissolved.
Exactly. So zero trust starts with the assumption that every user, every device, every connection is a potential threat, until it's proven otherwise. And it needs to be proven again and again. Think of it like a super strict bouncer at an exclusive club.
Yeah.
You don't just get waved in because you're standing nearby. You show ID, maybe get a wristband, and they might even check you again later. And in 2025, ZTA is fast becoming the gold standard for security in this, borderless digital world.
And the reason for this shift, it's understanding that threats don't just come from outside hackers. They can absolutely come from inside an organization's own network, too. So the focus is on minimizing damage if a breach does happen by stopping attackers from moving around easily.
Okay, so what are the key pillars, the main principles behind this zero trust approach?
Well, there are a few core ones. First, continuous verification. That means users, devices, they're authenticated and authorized repeatedly, not just once when they log in. Then there's the principle of least privilege access. Basically, you only give users the absolute minimum access they need to do their specific job. Nothing more.
Makes sense.
And finally, microsegmentation. That's about chopping the network up into small, isolated zones, like watertight compartments on a ship. If one area is breached, the damage is contained, the attacker can't easily spread everywhere, Imagine a big office building, but instead of open floors, it's lots of small, locked offices. Get into one, you can't just roam the whole building.
Those principles really make intuitive sense. Can you give us a real-world example? How has zero trust actually made a difference for a company?
Sure. There was a big retail company that got hit hard by ransomware back in 2024. Really messed up their supply chain.
Ouch.
Yeah. So in response, they rolled out a full zero trust architecture across their entire system. The result, they cut their overall attack surface by something like 60%. And crucially, when another attack was attempted a few months later, the ZTA setup actually prevented it.
Wow, 60% reduction and stopped another attack. That's impressive.
It really is. And in 2025, we're seeing this philosophy move beyond just giant corporations. Smaller businesses are adopting it, and people are even starting to think about it for securing, personal devices in smart homes. That's a powerful example of how effective ZTA can be, both in shrinking the target area and in actually containing breaches. That microsegmentation piece is key for limiting the blast radius of an attack.
Definitely. Now, to dig a bit deeper into actually implementing Zero Trust, we're really pleased to welcome James Carter. He's a top cybersecurity architect at Google. James, welcome, expert speaker.
As James Carter. Thanks. Glad to be here.
James, Zero Trust sounds, pretty involved. Is it really the direction all organizations should be moving towards for cybersecurity? Expert speaker, James Carter.
Absolutely, yes. That traditional model, build a perimeter, trust everything inside, it just doesn't cut it anymore. Not with today's world of remote work everywhere, cloud services being the norm, and just the sheer number and variety of devices connecting. That perimeter, it's basically gone.
Right. Expert speaker, as James Carter.
Zero Trust accepts that reality. It builds security around that core idea. Never trust, always verify. At Google, we've actually been using Zero Trust principles for years with our Beyond Corp framework. Essentially, we treat every access request, doesn't matter if it's from inside the old network or outside, as if it's coming from an untrusted source.
Can you walk us through maybe a more concrete day-to-day example of how that never trust, always verify works in practice? Expert speaker is James Carter. Sure. Okay. Imagine a remote employee needs access to a sensitive company database. Expert speaker, as James Carter. Under Zero Trust, before they get any access, their device gets checked thoroughly. Is it patched? Running up-to-date antivirus? Then, their identity is verified rigorously using multi-factor authentication. And even then, their access to that database is strictly limited. Only what they absolutely need for their job, no broad access to anything else. Okay, expert speaker, as James Carter. Plus, the system keeps watching their activity while they're connected. Anything weird like trying to log in from an unexpected location and flags it, maybe even blocks access automatically. The good news, though, for 2025 is we're seeing more accessible tools from companies like Okta, Microsoft, Azure AD. They're making it much easier for smaller companies to implement Zero Trust basics without, a massive complex overhaul.
Yeah.
Sounds incredibly effective, definitely. But what are the main hurdles? The challenges organizations face when they try to adopt Zero Trust? Expert speaker is James Carter. Yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, one of the biggest hurdles is often organizational culture and user resistance. Expert speaker is James Carter. Implementing Zero Trust can mean more logins, stricter controls. Some users might see that as inconvenient, slowing them down. It needs a real shift in mindset, away from assuming trust to verifying everything explicitly. That cultural change takes time, communication, education. It's like consciously locking your car every single time you leave it. It seems small, maybe annoying, but it's fundamental security. Right, expert speaker, as James Carter. Costs can also be a perceived barrier, especially for smaller businesses with tight IT budgets. But like I said, there are more affordable options now, open source tools, cloud-based CTA platforms that can help lower that barrier. It's good to hear that cost isn't necessarily stopping everyone anymore. Do you have maybe a couple of quick practical tips for our listeners, things they could do to bring a bit more of that Zero Trust mindset into their own digital lives? Expert speaker, as James Carter. Definitely.
For individuals, a great start: enable multi-factor authentication everywhere it's offered. Seriously, that one step makes it so much harder for someone to get into your accounts, even if they steal your password. Crucial. Expert speaker, as James Carter. Another good one at home: segment your Wi-Fi. Keep guest devices, maybe less secure smart home gadgets, separate from your main network with your computers and phones. Reduces the risk if one of those gets compromised. And of course, use a password manager. Generate strong, unique passwords for everything. That aligns perfectly with Zero Trust, minimizing the damage if one credential gets stolen. These are all pretty simple but really effective first steps. Fantastic, James. Thanks so much for breaking down zero trust architecture for us. It's clearly a vital shift in how we need to think about security going forward. Expert speaker as James Carter. My pleasure. Glad I could help.
James really hit the nail on the head there. Zero trust isn't just about technology. It's a mindset shift, a fundamental rethink of how we grant and manage access in this digital age.
Absolutely. Okay, listeners, from those foundational principles of zero trust, we're going to pivot now. We're looking ahead to a more maybe futuristic sounding, but increasingly relevant threat, the potential impact of quantum computing.
Yeah, quantum computing. It's still pretty early days in some ways, but it definitely has the potential to shake things up massively across many fields. And cybersecurity is absolutely one of the areas that could see the biggest changes.
Okay, let's try and wrap our heads around this. Quantum computing still feels a bit like sci-fi to a lot of us, right? But it's emerging fast as a potential major disruptor for cybersecurity to 2025 and definitely beyond.
Yeah.
The big worry. Its theoretical ability to just break the encryption we rely on today.
That's the core of it, yeah. The encryption algorithms we use now, they're based on math problems that are just incredibly hard for regular classical computers to solve. Takes them ages.
Right, like factoring massive numbers. That's the bedrock for things like RSA encryption. But quantum computers, they work differently using quantum bits, qubits. They have the theoretical power to solve those specific kinds of complex problems exponentially faster than even the biggest classical supercomputers we have.
And the implications of that, well, they're huge. Potentially revolutionary and, yeah, pretty concerning. If a powerful enough, stable enough quantum computer can break these public key algorithms, it could basically make vast amounts of data we think is protected right now completely vulnerable.
Exactly. The experts talk about the point when quantum computers can actually break today's common encryption. They call it cryptographically relevant quantum computing. And the day that happens, often called Q-Day.
And while nobody knows the exact date for Q-Day, there's debate. Breakthroughs by big players like IBM and Google in 2024 definitely sped up the perceived timeline. A lot of experts are now saying Q-Day could realistically be maybe 5 to 10 years away.
Now, 5-10 years might still sound like a while off, but the potential consequences are just immense. We're talking about compromising pretty much everything secured by RSA today. That's HTTPS on websites, VPNs, even the security behind blockchain and digital signatures.
And maybe even more worrying sort of in the shorter term is this idea of harvest now, decrypt later.
Right. Explain that.
It's a scenario where attackers, maybe nation states, maybe really well-funded criminal groups, are already collecting huge amounts of encrypted data today. They can't break it yet, but they're hoarding it, banking on being able to decrypt it all retroactively once those powerful quantum computers actually arrive.
That's a genuinely chilling idea. Data we think is safe now could be exposed years from now. But okay, it's not all doom and gloom, thankfully. There's a huge global effort underway to develop new kinds of encryption that are resistant to quantum attacks, often called post-quantum cryptography, or PQC.
Yeah, developing and standardizing these PQC algorithms is absolutely critical R&D right now. The goal is to find new mathematical approaches for encryption that can stand up to attacks from both classical computers and quantum computers.
And there's been real progress. NIST, that's the National Institute of Standards and Technology in the U.S., they released their first set of standardized PQC algorithms in 2024. That was a big milestone. And we're already seeing companies like Cloudflare, Microsoft starting to test and implement these quantum-safe algorithms.
Those NIST standards are really important. They give the industry a benchmark, help ensure different systems using these new methods can actually work together.
Now, to help us navigate this complex, maybe slightly daunting world of quantum computing and cybersecurity, we're thrilled to welcome Dr. Elena Vargas. She's a leading expert in quantum cryptography from MIT. Dr. Vargas, thanks so much for joining us. Expert speaker as Dr. Vargas.
Thank you for having me. Happy to discuss this. Dr. Vargas, this whole quantum computing impact on security, it can feel a bit overwhelming for the average person. How big a threat is it really, specifically in 2025? What should people and organizations really be paying attention to now? Expert speaker is Dr. Vargas. You're right, it can seem very distant, very abstract, and look, quantum computing does pose a very real, potentially significant long-term threat to our current encryption. But it's also important to remember, quantum computing is kind of a double-edged sword here. How so? Expert speaker is Dr. Vargas. Well, while it threatens current security, it also opens the door to potentially creating entirely new, maybe even theoretically unbreakable encryption methods like quantum key distribution. But for 2025 specifically,
the more immediate pressing concern is absolutely that harvest now, decrypt later scenario we talked about, right? Expert speaker is Dr. Vargas. We have evidence that sophisticated attackers, especially nation states, well-funded groups were already actively vacuuming up encrypted data, expecting to break it later with quantum power. So even if we don't see successful quantum decryption attacks widely happening in 2025, the groundwork for future problems is being laid right now. Expert speaker, as Dr. Vargas. Precisely. And that's why the work on post-quantum cryptography, PQC, is so incredibly important. Research development and crucially widespread adoption. NIST releasing those standards was a huge step. These new algorithms, many based on totally different math like lattice-based cryptography, are designed to resist both classical and quantum attacks. But we have to be realistic. Moving to these new standards, it's going to be complex, it's going to take time, especially for critical infrastructure systems, things with really long operational lives. That makes total sense. It's not like flipping a switch for the whole internet. So what practical advice do you have?
For the average person, and for businesses, facing this looming quantum threat, expert speaker is Dr. Vargas. For the average person, honestly, the best thing for now is stay informed, keep an eye on developments, and maybe push the services you use to prioritize adopting quantum-safe security as it becomes available. Importantly, keep up with basic cybersecurity hygiene, like passwords and MFA. Expert speaker as Dr. Vargas. Exactly. Strong, unique passwords, MFA everywhere possible. Quantum computers aren't going to magically guess your terrible password. Those basics are still absolutely essential. For businesses, IT folks, it's crucial to start assessing your current crypto infrastructure now. Talk to your vendors, your service providers. What are their plans for transitioning to PTC? We're also starting to see early quantum-resistant VPNs, browsers, so individuals really concerned about long-term privacy might want to start looking into those. That's really helpful practical guidance, Dr. Vargas. Thank you for making the quantum threat a bit less mysterious for us. Expert speaker, as Dr. Vargas. You're very welcome. Glad to help clarify.
Dr. Vargas really underlined the need for that long view, didn't she? Quantum isn't an immediate fire drill in 2025, maybe, but that harvest now, decrypt later threat means preparing now by focusing on moving towards quantum-resistant crypto is absolutely essential.
Couldn't agree more. All right, now shifting gears again. From the cutting edge of quantum, we're turning to a much more immediate and unfortunately very widespread threat in 2025. Ransomware-as-a-service.
Ugh, ransomware. Still such a massive headache for organizations, big and small. And this ransomware-as-a-service, or RaaS model, it's really just supercharged its reach and impact.
Okay, let's break down RaaS. If you still picture cyber criminals as like lone hackers in hoodies, time to update that image. RaaS is basically cybercrime franchising.
Yeah, like the McDonald's of malware.
Huh? Or maybe the Uber or Airbnb of the digital underworld. You have these professional, often really skilled hacking groups who develop the ransomware itself. Then they sell it or lease it out to other criminals, the affiliates, who might be less technically skilled, but they're the ones who actually launch the attacks.
It's all about specialization and scale, isn't it? The core developers build and maintain the nasty software and infrastructure. The affiliates handle distribution, picking targets, negotiating ransoms.
Exactly, and it's often surprisingly organized. Raised groups might give affiliates these user-friendly dashboards to manage attacks, offer customer support, even have subscription plans or revenue sharing. The cost is just nuts. In 2024 alone, Raise attacks cost businesses globally something like $2.6 billion. And groups like Lockbit, Black Hat, they've become, sadly, almost household names.
And a big reason it spreads so much is that low barrier to entry for the affiliates. Someone with fairly limited tech skills can essentially rent really sophisticated ransomware tools and the support system, making it way easier to launch attacks.
And the fallout for victims. Absolutely devastating. We saw a really grim example early in 2025. A small manufacturing company in Ohio got hit, completely shut down their production.
Oh, wow.
The initial ransom, $5 million in Bitcoin. And the really awful part, even after the company apparently paid a chunk of it, their sensitive data still got leaked online. It just hammers home that critical advice.
Yeah.
Never pay the ransom.
Right. Paying doesn't guarantee you get your data back. And worse, it directly funds these criminal groups, encourages more attacks, it fuels the whole ecosystem.
So what are the absolute must-do steps? How can people and organizations protect themselves from this growing RaaS threat?
Well, the fundamentals of good cybersecurity are just critical here. Regular offline backups are probably the single most important defense.
Offline being the key word.
Absolutely. If your main data gets encrypted, having a clean, recent backup stored completely separately lets you restore without even thinking about ping. Keeping all your software, operating systems patched and up to date is also vital. Ransomware often exports known unpatched vulnerabilities. Using good endpoint detection and response tools can help spot and block ransomware early. And, like we talked about with AI scams, training your team, everyone to spot and avoid phishing emails, which are a super common way ransomware gets delivered initially, that's crucial.
All really vital, actionable stuff. Now, to give us even deeper insights into RaaS, we're joined by Sarah Nguyen. She's a real expert on ransomware, formerly a cybercrime analyst with the FBI. Sarah, thanks for being here. Expert speaker is Sarah Nguyen. Thanks for having me. Sarah, RaaS seems to have totally reshaped the ransomware scene. What's driving its continued growth and impact in 2025? Expert speaker is Sarah Nguyen.
You're absolutely right. It's a total game changer. The main driver, sheer accessibility. Like you said, it drastically lowers the bar for launching attacks. You don't need to be a master coder anymore. You can basically buy a ransomware kit on the dark web for, honestly, sometimes just a couple $100. Wow, that low. Expert speaker, as Sarah Nguyen, yeah.
And they often come with instructions, even tech support from the RaaS operators. It's really democratized cybercrime in a bad way. And a trend we're seeing strongly in 2025 is these RaaS groups going after smaller businesses, even individuals, much more often, not just the big fish anymore. That broadening of targets to smaller organizations, individuals, that's definitely worrying.
Any recent cases that really highlight the damage RaaS does to these smaller players? Expert speaker is Sarah Nguyen. Oh, sadly, way too many. Just recently, we saw a small school district in Texas get hit hard by a RaaS attack. Locked up all their student records, administrative systems. Oh no, expert speaker is Sarah Nguyen. They ended up paying a $1 million ransom, mainly because they didn't have adequate tested backups. It just highlights how devastating this can be for organizations without deep pockets or robust defenses. And it reinforces that backups and having an incident response plan ready before you get hit are just non-negotiable. A really stark reminder that this isn't just a big corporation problem. So what's the one key action our listeners, individuals, people, and organizations can take today to better protect themselves from RaaS? Expert speaker as Sarah Nguyen. If I have to pick just one, implement and regularly test your offline data backups. Test them. Good point. Expert speaker as Sarah Nguyen. Absolutely. Backups aren't useful if they don't work when you need them. Store copies on devices physically disconnected from your network, external drives, air-gapped systems.
That separation is key if your main network gets compromised. Beyond that, extreme caution with email links and attachments, especially from unknown senders. Robust email filtering helps. And for organizations, invest in regular effective security awareness training for everyone. That's all incredibly valuable, actionable advice, Sarah. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise on this critical and, frankly, nasty threat. Expert speaker as Sarah Nguyen. My pleasure. Stay safe out there.
Sarah really hammered home the importance of those basics, didn't she? Especially offline backups. It's often the simple things, done consistently, that offer the best defense against ransomware.
Absolutely. Okay, listeners, we've covered a lot today. AI attacks, quantum threats, RaaS. Now, for our final key trend in cybersecurity for 2025, we're turning to something that connects all of these and often gets underestimated: the human factor.
Yeah, it's almost ironic. Despite all the amazing tech advancements and security tools, human error, it consistently remains a major vulnerability, often the primary vulnerability in our digital defenses.
It's true. A bit sobering, but ultimately, people are often the weakest link in the security chain. You can have the best firewalls, intrusion detection, AI threat intel, but one slip-up, one moment of distraction by an employee, by any user, can accidentally open the door for attackers.
And the fact that social engineering attacks are getting more sophisticated in 2025, that just proves cyber criminals often find it easier, more effective to exploit human psychology than to try and brute force through complex tech defenses.
Exactly. We're seeing this constant evolution in phishing emails, that's phishing via text message, and phishing, voice phishing over the phone. Hackers are getting really good at playing on our natural tendencies, being busy, distracted, sometimes too trusting, maybe too eager to help or follow instructions that seem legit. The stats back it up, sadly. In 2024, estimates were that something like 82% of all data breaches involved some kind of human error playing a part.
82%. That just screams out the need to focus way more on the human side of cybersecurity. Technology alone, no matter how smart, just isn't enough.
And to really drive that home, think about that major airline breach back in 2024. Huge story.
Right.
How did it start? Not some super complex hack or flaw in their booking system. No, the initial way in was traced back to one employee falling for a phishing email. It looked like a routine software update request.
Just one click?
One click. That ultimately led to the theft of data for over 10 million customers. Cost the airline, what, an estimated $200 million in fines, recovery, lawsuits. It's just a massive reminder. Education, training, awareness, they are the frontline defense here.
That example really shows the huge potential consequences from just one instance of human error. It means every single person using technology needs to see themselves as part of the security solution.
So what are some quick practical tips listeners can use right now to strengthen their own human firewall, reduce their chances of falling for these social engineering tricks?
Okay, several key things everyone can do. First, absolutely practice pause before you click. Get an email, text, even a phone call that feels urgent, asks for sensitive info, pushes you to act now. Just stop, breathe, take a second. Verify it independently through a channel you know is trustworthy.
Good habit.
Second, make strong, unique passwords for every single online account a non-negotiable. Use a password manager. It makes it so much easier than trying to remember them all, or worse, reusing them.
Please don't reuse passwords.
Please. Third, enable multi-factor authentication everywhere. It's that crucial extra layer. Even if they get your password, MFA can stop them. And finally, maybe the most important, just stay skeptical. Trust your gut. If something feels off, too good to be true, just doesn't seem right, it probably isn't, or on the side of caution.
All excellent, really actionable advice. Now, to dig into the psychology behind why we fall for these things and maybe find better ways to train ourselves and our teams, we're delighted to welcome Lisa Thompson. She's a top cybersecurity trainer and also a behavioral psychologist. Lisa, thanks for joining us. Expert speaker is Lisa Thompson. Thank you for having me. It's an important topic. Lisa, despite all the warnings, the tech, the awareness campaigns, why do humans keep being such a big vulnerability in cybersecurity? Expert speaker is Lisa Thompson. It really comes down to some fundamental ways our brains are wired. We're social animals, right? We naturally tend to trust people, especially those who seem like they're in charge or are appealing to our desire to be helpful. Expert speaker is Lisa Thompson. Attackers are experts at exploiting these deep-seated tendencies, our cognitive biases. They use psychological tricks, creating fake urgency, impersonating bosses, playing on emotions to bypass our rational thinking, and manipulate us into clicking that link, giving that info. And like we've touched on, in 2025, we're seeing this really potent mix of sophisticated AI with these old-school social engineering tricks. AI is making the attacks more personalized, more realistic, harder even for savvy people to spot. A combination of AI and social engineering sounds particularly tough to defend against. What are some common mistakes you see, even among people who think they're pretty tech-aware? Expert speaker, as Lisa Thompson. Oh, one of the biggest, most dangerous mistakes is simple overconfidence. People think, oh, I'm too smart for that, or that would never happen to me. Yeah, I know people like that. Expert speaker, as Lisa Thompson. We all do. But the reality is everyone is potentially vulnerable. Given the right circumstances, a cleverly crafted attack. In my work doing simulated phishing tests for companies, it's always eye-opening. You see how many people, even in tech roles, still click. I've seen click rates on well-designed fake emails hit 30%, sometimes even higher. It just shows the gap between how secure we think we are and how we actually behave when faced with a realistic attack. 30% or higher. Wow, that's sobering. So what are the most effective ways to improve this human element, both for organizations and for individuals? Expert speaker, as Lisa Thompson. Okay, the key for both is regular, engaging, relevant training and awareness. This can't be a one-off, check-the-box thing. It has to be ongoing. Keep reinforcing concepts, adapt to the new threats. Make the training interactive. Use real-world examples, maybe even gamification to make it stick. Make it interesting, basically. Expert speaker, as Lisa Thompson. Exactly. For organizations, creating a culture where people feel safe reporting mistakes or suspicions without fear of blame. That's huge. If someone does click something bad, you want them to tell IT immediately so you can contain it. And finally, keep hammering the basics, like using strong, unique passwords. Seriously, everyone, can we please move past password 123? A message we can definitely all get behind. Lisa, thank you so much for that incredibly valuable perspective on the crucial human factor. Expert speaker, as Lisa Thompson. My pleasure. Important conversation.
Lisa's points really drive it home, don't they? Cybersecurity isn't just about the tech, it's fundamentally a human challenge. Dealing with our own vulnerabilities through ongoing learning, awareness, and just a healthy dose of skepticism is absolutely vital.
Couldn't agree more. All right, listeners, we have covered a lot of ground today. We've taken a deep dive into the top 5 cybersecurity trends and threats you really need to have on your radar for 2025. Let's just quickly recap those key takeaways, the actionable things you can think about and start doing.
Okay, first, AI and machine learning in cyber warfare. Remember, it cuts both ways. Protect yourself. Enable MFA everywhere you can. Be super vigilant for those AI-powered scams, the deepfake emails, voice calls. Maybe check resources like Have I Been Prone to see if your accounts have shown up in breaches.
Right. Second, zero trust architecture. For everyone, step 1, use a password manager for strong, unique passwords. At home, maybe segment your Wi-Fi. For businesses, definitely start exploring those increasingly accessible ZTA tools.
Third, quantum computing threats. For now, the key is stay informed about PQC development, but keep focusing on the security fundamentals. Strong passwords, MFA. They still protect against most current threats.
Fourth, ransomware-as-a-service. Critical action. Offline backups. Implement them, test them. Use good email filters, train your teams relentlessly on spotting phishing, and have an incident response plan before you need it.
And finally, fifth, the human factor. Always pause before you click. Use that password manager. Enable MFA. Stay skeptical. And maybe look into some free online cybersecurity awareness courses to sharpen your skills.
It's so crucial to remember. Cybersecurity isn't a one-time fix. It's a constant process. Learning, adapting, staying prepared for whatever comes next. It's not just a tech problem solved by software. It needs us to be active participants, vigilant, practicing good security habits every day.
That's exactly it. Stay informed on these trends, proactively adopt these security measures. You really can significantly reduce your risk and protect yourself, protect your organizations in this complex digital world.
We really want to say thank you again to our fantastic expert guests today for sharing their insights. Dr. Maya Patel, James Carter, Dr. Alina Vargas, Sarah Nguyen, and Lisa Thompson. Your expertise was incredibly valuable. And of course, a huge thank you, our listeners, for joining us on this deep dive into the digital frontier.
We really hope this discussion gave you a clearer picture of the cybersecurity challenges in 2025, and more importantly, empowered you with practical strategies to stay safer.
If you found this valuable, please think about subscribing to The Deep Dive. Maybe leave us a review on your podcast app and share this with anyone you think could benefit. We love hearing from you too. Send us your questions, feedback, ideas for future topics.
We're always exploring important subjects, trying to bring you relevant, insightful information to help you navigate, well, everything.
Join us next time for another Deep Dive. Until then, stay vigilant, stay secure, and keep a careful eye on your digital frontier.